supporters of us. As you know, we are the No Wiggins bus tour. What brings us out here today is a Supreme Court case in 2009 where 7 activist judges stepped outside their constitutional bounds when they overturned the Defense of Marriage Act and legislated from the bench and bringing in same-sex marriage to the state of Iowa. In 2010, the people of Iowa responded by voting out 3 of those judges, which brings us to the year 2012. We will be having 4 judges up for retention for the Supreme Court. 3 of them replaced the 3 we voted out in 2010, and we are not advocating for no vote on those judges. The 4th judge is Judge Wiggins. He was on the court in 2009. He was part of the unanimous decision, and we are advocating for no vote on Wiggins. As you can tell, our bus very bluntly puts that out there. And the bus, we actually are several organizations that have come together to promote this no vote. One of them is Citizen Link, the family leader. We had Rick Santorum here earlier this week with Patriot Voices. Brian Brown was with us yesterday, the National Organization for Marriage. We have Bobby Jendel with us yesterday as well. And a couple days ago, we had Joshua Mercer with CatholicVote.org and some more Catholic communities in eastern Iowa. But the book I'm holding here is called We Overrule. It's written by Barb Hecky and Vicki Crawford. They're 2 moms that just decided to get involved back in 2010. They were not happy with the court's decision. They did not like judicial activism. They got very engaged in the 2010 retention vote, played a very large instrumental role in the 3 judges being voted out. They've written a book to discuss kind of what happened in that race and also just to inspire other Americans of how they can hold an activist court in check. This book is available on our website, nowiggins.com. I'd like to introduce our first speaker, Kim Lehman with Patriot Voices.
All right, Kim.
Thank you. Well, this is a spread out crowd. Thank you for everyone for coming. I'm representing Patriot Voices, which is Rick Santorum's organization, and it's a grassroots effort to increase the number of Patriots' voices. Well said. And I just want to encourage all of you to remember something, and that is that in 2009, there were 7 justices that ruled against marriage of one man and one woman. And it is now, in 2010, 3 of those justices were up for retention, and they were removed by Iowa voters. So there is now another judge that sat on that court that is up for retention, and I have to remind everyone that if we remove those 3, doesn't it make sense that this judge should also be removed because it is an opinion?
Go away!
And I also want to just share with you, a friend of mine in Des Moines who's a lawyer on the Bar Association, he said, Kim, if you're going to be speaking, would you share something with everyone and tell the press this? Because as a lawyer, all of us all know this, but the general public does not know this. And that is that in the Varnum decision that was given to us by these 9 activist judges, there was part of the opinion that stated, plaintiffs presented on an abundance of evidence and research confirmed by our own independent research. And he said, Kim, we all know that that is an abuse of judicial conduct because in the Iowa Code, Chapter 51, it says a judge shall not investigate facts in a case independently. Not only did this judge say, so tell me in your best way, how can we get around the Constitution? But he also broke the judicial code of conduct that all judges are to uphold. And so now we're being asked whether or not we should retain this judge. Like you and many others, we all ask the question on the ballot, how do we vote on these judges? And as Iowans, we don't really want to fire anyone. We like to keep the people that are in office, but this is an Iowa Supreme Court justice. And now people are being asked the question, should we or should we not retain these judges? Well, the reality is in 2010, we said no to those 3 because of what they did in the Varnum case. This is a judge that sat on that same court. Should we not be, in their language, fair? So I encourage all of you to realize that he broke the judicial code of conduct along with these other judges in 2009. And it is our responsibility as Iowans to send a message back to these courts and these judges that if they're going to be upholding the law, they should uphold the law. So I'm asking you to vote no on Wiggins.
Go away!
Thank you very much, Kim. The next speaker is Chuck Wagner, who's the Senior Advisor at Iowans for Freedom.
Yeah, I think we all understand the political environment in the last few years. For a long time we feel like the government is out of control. But I think specifically 2 years ago, Americans and Iowans specifically finally felt like they'd lost control. I think Iowans, like Americans everywhere, are tired of being humiliated by their government. All levels, humiliated by their government. And 2 years ago, when the 3 judges came up for retention, it was a chance for the Iowa voters to shake the cage and remind our public servants that they're on the inside. I think that the core of the matter isn't whether you're Republican or Democrat, whether it's property rights or marriage, Second Amendment, First Amendment. It's that one line in that Varnum decision where it says that they can use rights heretofore unimagined. That's a quote from the Varnum decision, rights heretofore unimagined. Well, unimagined is limitless. Unimagined it casts a net, and they say you don't understand because you're not a judge. Matter of fact, that was the line that the spokesman for the movement in support of the judges said over and over again. You people don't understand. Well, I think we do understand. We understand that we get to vote our conscience. There is absolutely no one who can tell you not to vote your conscience. And it isn't just a matter of punishing bad behavior. In fact, the other side isn't even saying reward good behavior, as you'll hear soon in their own rankings. It's just look the other way. Keep moving. Don't bother us. Because they want the judiciary to be their own personal playground. Well, folks, that's our Constitution. That's our contract with government. Our contract with government that says every 2 years, we the people of Iowa, the voters, get to determine our future. We get to define the times in which we live. And folks, vote your conscience. Tell everybody to vote their conscience. And don't let anybody tell you that you can't do just that on November 6th. Thanks.
Thank you, Chuck. For those of you who know Chuck Wagner, Chuck used to be the former chief of staff of Steve King, who's running for Congress, of course, up in this district again. Our next speaker is Tamara Scott. She's Iowa's Republican National Committee woman and co-chairwoman of Iowans for Freedom.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you, everybody, for coming out today. Whether you agree or disagree, this is the process, and we must be involved in it. We must be engaged, and I'm thankful for that. But here's a responsibility as well. This is not about one issue. This is not about what you think or I think. This is about the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the state of Iowa, and upholding them. This is about the separation of powers, the separation of the branches, and the fact that we rule, and everyone who does rule does so at the consent of the governed. And it's protections that have to be in place so that power is not abused. And that's what we saw in 2009, the abuse of power. 7 individuals who were not elected to make law. They were appointed to uphold the law. And Iowans saw it clearly, and they did understand, and they said, not here. And the nation responded well. And we must again stand on that because our fathers, our founding fathers, ordinary people who understood freedom, who understood what a tyrannical government looked like before, stood up and protected those liberties that we so enjoy today. And since that time, veterans as well, across the sea on our behalf here at home, have protected our liberties. We too must do what we can to protect them from our homes and in the voting booth here. And this is how we do it. The retention vote, just to be clear, because Chuck Loudner's right, there was just a real judicial arrogance, an academic snobbery, and an intellectual bullying that went on in 2010 over this issue, and it's continued since that time as they have been on a campaign in your universities and your college campuses. They've turned those platforms of education into political platforms and done nothing more than a PR campaign to help folks learn to love the judges. But truth continues to come out. And he's right when they said we didn't understand that bullying that went on. Iowa proved we did understand. And so here we are today. If you could imagine a bar association that prides itself in regulating its own, and I see a lot of ties around here today, and if you're with the bar association, I welcome you, and I ask you to uphold your association to this what we hear objective organization that it's supposed to be. When people have phoned in the past, they would say, we don't get involved in those issues. We won't tell you how to vote on a judge. But all of a sudden, that's been tossed away. Amazingly enough, for a judge, as Cynthia Moser's trying to tell us in her latest newsletter here, their magazine, a judge that got 63% in his latest judicial review. This is on the Iowa Bar Association's website. I invite you to go check it out for yourself. It's quite stark when you look at the differences between his scores and the other 3 justices that are up for retention this year. This isn't a referendum on a voting ballot or a ballot issue or even a politician where we might expect 63 would be a good thing. This is by his own peers, those who have been with him in the courtroom and risked going before him again in the courtroom, and yet they wanted to speak out on what they call, not a review, they call it a recommendation for retention. Only 63% could recommend he be retained. That is incredibly low, especially when you consider, and I make this plain to make sure that we all understand, because our opponents last time, the opponents of the people's voice, the opponents of the Constitution, wanted to cloud the issue. So let me make it clear. Those who are also on the retention survey this year, the rest of them got in the 90 percentile. A stark difference. So I would ask those of you who are here to ask your friends who are attorneys, to ask your friends who are on the Bar Association, how do you validate this? How do you justify this? This is the Iowa Supreme Court. This is not a dog and pony show. Can we not do better than what equates to a D minus? If we were taking a test in the school, if we were doing an evaluation, if this were your job review, is that the attorney you want handling your case, let alone the judge that